Dear Eerie Encounters, we are from London. My husband is an engineer and I'm a communications manager at an IT company. I've never been one to believe in the supernatural, but what my husband and I experienced in Madagascar has shaken me to the core. We were traveling through the country, hoping to explore the beautiful and remote rainforests of Masawala National Park. The roads were treacherous, so we hired a seasoned local guide to take us safely through the rugged terrain. Little did we know, what awaited us in that dense forest would be something far beyond any adventure we could have imagined. The drive to the village felt endless. The roads were rough, more like rocky trails, and we were constantly jolted in our seats. Our guide assured us we were on the right path, but it was hard to feel confident. By the time we reached the village, night had fallen, and we were exhausted. The village was small, perched on the edge of the rainforest, with just a few thatched roof homes. We stayed in a simple, locally run lodge. Nothing fancy, just wooden huts lit by lanterns. That night, I lay awake listening to the eerie sounds of the forest. We were completely isolated, and though I was curious, I couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The next morning, after a quick breakfast, we set off deeper into the rainforest. Our guide took us in a sturdy 4x4, navigating a narrow, rugged path that wound through thick trees and dense undergrowth. The deeper we went, the more isolated we felt, with no sign of civilization for miles. After what felt like hours of driving, our guide stopped at a clearing. We parked the vehicle and continued on foot, following a narrow trail that led even further into the jungle. The air was heavy with humidity, and the sounds of wildlife surrounded us. I was excited to see the heart of the rainforest, unaware that we were walking straight into a nightmare. As we ventured deeper into the forest, something unusual caught my eye through the dense trees. At first, it seemed like movement, maybe an animal, but as we moved quietly, my heart began to race. In a clearing ahead, partially hidden, stood 4 tall reptilian beings, unlike anything I had ever imagined. Their dark green scaled skin glistened, and they towered over 7 feet tall. Each of them carried cages filled with lemurs and other small animals, trapped and helpless. The sight made my stomach churn. The beings moved methodically, loading the cages onto a large cylindrical craft. The vehicle looked like some kind of alien spaceship, its metallic surface reflecting sunlight through the trees. We froze, watching in silence. Our guide motioned for us to stay quiet, and time seemed to slow. My heart pounded in my chest, fearing they might hear it. I clutched my husband's arm, willing myself to stay still. But then, in the stillness, I shifted slightly, and my foot brushed against a branch. The snap sounded deafening in the silence. Instantly, one of the reptilian beings stopped and turned its head toward us. Its slit-like eyes locked onto us, and I felt my breath catch. The others quickly noticed us, their cold eyes scanning the forest until all of them were staring. Time stretched unbearably, their gaze sharp and unblinking as they weighed their next move. Panic surged through me, and I knew we had to act. Suddenly, a low, guttural sound came from one of them, a signal. Without thinking, we turned and bolted. The silence shattered as we sprinted back toward the trail, fear pushing us forward. The forest became a blur, each snap of a twig or rustle of leaves sending terror through me. For a moment, I thought they weren't pursuing us, but then I heard it, a distant crash of something large moving through the trees. They were coming, not in a rush, but deliberately, as if giving us a head start. It felt like a twisted game. Their footsteps grew louder, closing in as we ran faster, the terror mounting, knowing they were just behind us, deciding when to strike. Every step felt like a race against time. Their heavy, pounding footsteps crashed through the undergrowth, growing louder with each second. We could feel them gaining on us, the sheer terror pushing us to run even faster, desperate to escape before they caught up. They were fast, far faster than I expected, and closing in on us. My legs felt heavy as panic surged through me, but I pushed forward, barely able to keep up with our guide. My husband was just ahead, urging me on as we dodged branches and uneven ground. The sound of the creatures grew louder, their guttural snarls sending chills down my spine. My heart pounded as we reached the 4x4, scrambling inside just as one of the creatures came into view, too close for comfort. Our guide slammed the door shut and sped off, the tires spinning in the dirt. I could still see the beings through the trees, watching as we made our narrow escape. We barely made it out, shaken and terrified, but we weren't safe yet. As dusk fell that evening, the village children came running, their faces pale with fear. They had seen the creatures. By their description, these were the same reptilian beings we saw earlier, lurking just beyond the edge of the village. Word spread quickly, and a tense silence settled over us as the night began. Later, as darkness enveloped the village, strange lights appeared in the sky, moving eerily above the trees. At first, they seemed distant, but soon they grew closer, hovering unnervingly near the village. The lights flickered in strange colors, casting a weird glow across the treetops. Then, a large craft with blinding lights descended slowly from the sky. It hovered low, right over the village, moving deliberately, as if searching for something. We stood frozen, watching in horror, knowing that whatever was inside that craft was connected to the beings we had seen earlier. The fear was suffocating, and I knew our ordeal was far from over. As the night grew darker, the air around the village became thick with tension. From inside our small hut, we heard it, the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps, slow and deliberate, circling the village. My heart raced as the footsteps grew louder. It was as if something was closing in, hunting us. The villagers, sensing the danger, quickly decided it was time to take shelter. We gathered what we could and hurried to the chapel, the only place that felt remotely safe. The building was small and old, but it was the heart of the village, a place where they believed we might be protected from whatever was out there. Everyone huddled inside, terrified, whispering prayers under their breath. Two of the men, armed with rifles, stood near the door, determined to protect us. The sound of footsteps drew closer, and suddenly they fired shots into the sky, hoping to scare the creatures away. The gunfire echoed through the village, and for a brief moment, the footsteps stopped. But we all knew the danger hadn't truly passed. It was just waiting. The night felt like it would never end. The strange lights continued to circle above, and the heavy footsteps echoed around the village, sometimes close, sometimes distant, but always there. Every creak and sound made our hearts race, but as dawn finally approached, everything suddenly stopped. The lights vanished into the early morning sky, and the footsteps went silent. We stayed huddled together, afraid to move, but the village remained still. As the sun began to rise, we knew the terrifying ordeal had finally come to an end, though the fear still lingered. The next morning, shaken and exhausted, we decided to leave the village. The fear from the night before still hung heavy in the air, and we couldn't bear to stay any longer. Our guide helped us pack quickly, and we made our way back down the treacherous roads toward Antananarivo, still on edge, glancing nervously into the forest as we drove. The rest of our holidays, we visited other parts of Madagascar and did not return to the rainforest. It's a beautiful country. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. Even now, thinking back to those nights in the tropical forest sends a chill through me. I still don't know what those beings were or why they were there, but one thing is certain. We were never meant to see them, and I pray we never do again. My husband believes they only wanted to scare us, for reasons we may never understand. He insists that if they truly meant us harm, they could have killed us the moment we stumbled upon them. But I'm not so sure. I can't shake the feeling that their intentions were far more sinister. Regards, Alice. Thanks for joining us on this eerie journey. If this story sent chills down your spine, make sure to hit the like button. Let us know your thoughts, or if you've had any strange encounters in the comments below. We love hearing your stories. Don't forget to subscribe for more mysterious and otherworldly tales. And make sure to click the bell icon so you never miss a new upload. Until next time, stay safe and keep watching the skies.